Martha, an elderly woman in her mid-70s, sits by her window in her cozy, simple home. The years have left their mark on her, but there's a serene calmness in her demeanor. Her eyes reflect wisdom, tempered with the kind of gentle sadness that only time can bring. Her son, Samuel, has always been her world. She raised him alone, pouring every bit of love she had into him. There's no one left in her life but Samuel, and though he's grown distant, she never stops believing in him. Today, like every other day, she waits for him. The door opens slowly, and Samuel walks in. He's well-dressed, looking more polished than usual, but his face is tight with something that isn't quite right. Martha, with a warm smile, "Samuel, my dear, you look so busy. How are you? How's everything?" Samuel, his smile not quite reaching his eyes, "I've been handling things, Mom. Work's been stressful, but it's nothing to worry about." Martha notices the strain in his voice, the slight tremor in his hands as he sets his briefcase down. Still, she doesn't ask questions yet. "Martha, you're always working so hard. I'm proud of you." She motions for him to sit down beside her, her eyes filled with warmth and concern. Samuel sits, fidgeting with his hands, his mind somewhere else. The two sit in silence for a moment. Samuel, finally breaking the silence, his voice shaky, "Mom, there's something I need to talk to you about. It's about the business." Martha, with a reassuring smile, "Anything, Samuel. You know you can talk to me." Samuel hesitates, glancing around the room as though trying to find the right words. His eyes fall on an old photograph of the two of them on the mantel. He takes a deep breath before speaking again. "Samuel, I've been trying to get this business off the ground, but it's failing, Mom. I put everything into it, my savings, my time, my energy, but it's just not working. I need your help." Martha leans forward, concern growing in her eyes. "Martha, what kind of help?" "Samuel, you know I'll do whatever I can." Samuel, in a lowered voice, "I need $50,000, Mom. The business needs more capital, and I don't have any other way to get it. I swear, this is my last chance." Martha, momentarily stunned, tries to master shock. She's lived modestly all her life, and $50,000 is a huge amount, more than she's ever had. But her love for Samuel is unconditional. Martha, after a pause, her voice soft but steady, "You know I've saved a little over the years. Let me see what I can do." She gets up slowly and walks to a small drawer in the corner of the room where she keeps her savings book. Samuel watches her intently, but his eyes flicker nervously as she opens the drawer. She begins looking through the papers, her hands trembling just slightly. Samuel, his voice rising slightly, "Mom, this means everything to me. I promise you, once things get better, I'll pay you back. I just need a little more time." Martha's heart aches as she picks up her savings book. She's been careful with her money her whole life, but seeing Samuel so desperate stirs something in her. She trusts him. She always has. "Martha, I trust you." "Samuel, I'll do this for you. You're my son. I'll always be here for you." She writes the transfer details, her hands moving slowly as if every stroke is a decision she's made with her heart, not her head. As the transaction goes through, Martha feels a sense of peace. She's done the right thing, at least in her mind. But deep down, a small voice in her begins to question whether this is the right thing to do. Martha had always trusted her son. Samuel was the only family she had left. And for years, she believed that trust was the one thing that would never change. But Samuel's silence, the increasing distance between them, Martha couldn't see it then, but everything was about to change. Days pass by. Days turn into weeks, and Martha continues her quiet routine. Samuel still doesn't visit as often, and when he does, it's brief and always filled with distractions. Martha doesn't mind. She believes in him. He's her son after all. Martha didn't understand it yet, but every day she gave Samuel a little more of herself. Her trust, her savings, her love. Little did she know that in the silence between their conversations, Samuel was making decisions that would change everything. Martha sits in the same rocking chair, staring out the window, waiting for Samuel's call. She looks at her watch. It's late, but she's used to waiting. A knock at the door startles her. Martha, standing up quickly. Samuel? But it's not Samuel. It's a man in his mid-30s, unfamiliar to Martha. He wears a suit, holding a small envelope in his hand. Man, excuse me, ma'am. Is this the residence of Martha Richards? Martha nods, confused. Martha, yes, I'm Martha Richards. Can I help you? The man hands her the envelope. Man, this is for you. I've been asked to deliver it. Martha takes the envelope, but before she can ask more questions, the man turns and walks away, leaving her standing in the doorway. She opens the envelope slowly and finds a letter inside. Her hands tremble as she reads the contents. The letter is from the bank. It's a legal notice regarding the withdrawal from her account. It says the money transferred to Samuel has been flagged as suspicious. It's not clear why, but something feels wrong. Narrator, voiceover, Martha's heart skips a beat. She doesn't fully understand the implications of the letter, but she knows something isn't right. Samuel had asked for her help, but now she's starting to feel the weight of her decision. The money she trusted him with. Was it truly for his business, or was it something else? Martha paces back and forth in the small living room, the letter still in her hand. She feels a knot in her stomach. For the first time, doubt begins to creep into her heart. Did she make a mistake? Confrontation with Samuel. The next day, Martha can't wait any longer. She picks up the phone and dials Samuel's number. The phone rings several times before he finally answers. Samuel, on the phone, sounding distant. Hey, Mom. What's up? Martha, with a calm but firm tone. Samuel, I received something today. A letter from the bank. They flagged the money I sent you. I'm not sure why, but I need to know what's going on. There's a long pause on the other end of the line. Samuel's voice suddenly drops, as though he's preparing himself to lie. Samuel, oh, that's nothing, Mom. Don't worry about it. It's just a mix-up. The bank's been acting strange lately. Martha, sensing something off, her voice firm. No, Samuel. I'm not just going to sit back and ignore this. I've trusted you. I gave you everything, and now I need answers. Samuel stays silent for a moment, but Martha can hear his breathing quicken. Finally, he speaks again, but his voice shakes. Samuel, look, Mom, I swear it's nothing. I just needed the money, and it didn't work out the way I planned. Martha, what do you mean? Where's the money? Samuel, why isn't it going toward the business? The line goes quiet. For the first time, Samuel doesn't have an answer. Narrator, voiceover. In that silence, Martha knew. Something wasn't right. The man she trusted, the one she had given everything for, was hiding something from her. But Martha's love for Samuel was stronger than her doubts. She couldn't give up on him, not yet. This is the next section of the story, continuing to build tension and suspicion around Samuel's intentions. The upcoming parts will include Martha uncovering the truth and deciding how to deal with the betrayal in a surprising and emotional way. Martha's search for the truth. Days pass, but Martha can't shake the uneasy feeling that has settled deep within her. Samuel's avoidance becomes more evident every time she calls. He promises to explain but never follows through. His words become more distant and his behavior even colder. Something isn't adding up, but Martha refuses to give up on him. She decides to take matters into her own hands. Martha visits the bank herself, determined to understand what went wrong. She meets with a bank representative, a kind woman named Janet, who listens carefully as Martha explains her concerns. Janet, after looking up the transaction records, Mrs. Richards, I'm afraid I have some troubling news. The funds transferred to your son's account were flagged for suspicious activity. We've noticed several large withdrawals made in a short time. Martha's heart sinks as she listens to Janet explain the details. The withdrawals were made from different locations, far from the original business address Samuel had given her. Something about it just doesn't seem right. Martha, her voice shaking slightly. But Samuel assured me it was for his business. Janet, I'm sorry, Mrs. Richards, but it seems that your son may be involved in something more serious than you realize. Martha leaves the bank with her mind spinning, the truth starting to reveal itself. She's faced with a decision. Should she confront Samuel again, or should she try to get more information first? The confrontation continued. Martha can't wait any longer. She calls Samuel one more time, and this time, she's determined to get the truth. Samuel answers, but there's something different in his voice. It's colder, more defensive. Martha, calm but firm. Samuel, I went to the bank today. I know what's been happening. I know about the withdrawals, about the suspicious activity. What is going on? There's a long pause. Then, Samuel speaks, but it's not the son Martha knows. It's a man who's hiding something. Samuel, his voice tight with frustration. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. You're overreacting. The business is failing, but it's nothing illegal. I just needed to pay some debts, and I thought it would be temporary. Martha, her heart breaking. Samuel, you lied to me. I gave you everything, my trust, my savings, and now I find out you've been stealing from me? How could you do this? There's no answer from Samuel. The line crackles with the tension between them, the truth hanging in the air. Martha's voice shakes with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. Martha, I never thought it would come to this, but I'm done being lied to, Samuel. I want the truth now. Samuel's silence speaks louder than words. Martha feels her world shattering. The son she trusted has betrayed her in a way she never imagined. But she's not backing down. Narrator, voiceover, it wasn't just the money. It was a betrayal of a bond that had taken years to build. Martha had done everything she could for Samuel, but now she was forced to confront the painful reality that the one person she had always trusted had deceived her beyond measure. The aftermath. Martha struggles to sleep that night, the pain of betrayal weighing heavily on her. She stares at the ceiling, the quiet house around her feeling emptier than ever. In the morning, she wakes with a renewed sense of purpose. Samuel hasn't answered her calls, and his whereabouts are unknown. Martha knows she has to take action, not just for herself, but for the future of her family's legacy. She starts by calling a lawyer, seeking advice on what she can do to recover the stolen funds. The lawyer, a calm and professional man, listens to her story and offers his help. Lawyer, Mrs. Richards, I'm sorry this has happened to you. We'll start by tracing Samuel's transactions and investigating where that money went. There's still a chance to recover it. Martha feels a glimmer of hope, but the road ahead is long and uncertain. As she hangs up the phone, she takes a deep breath, realizing that she's not just fighting for money. She's fighting for the dignity and respect she's always had, for herself and for the life she's built. Narrator, voiceover, Martha's strength wasn't just in her ability to forgive, but in her decision to stand up for herself when it mattered most. Her journey to reclaim what was rightfully hers had only just begun, but she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to let anyone take advantage of her again. In this extended section, we see Martha grappling with the reality of her son's betrayal while finding the strength to take control of the situation. The investigation into Samuel's actions starts to unfold, creating a path for Martha to regain her dignity and justice. The shocking discovery. Martha's determination to uncover the truth continues as she and the lawyer dig deeper into Samuel's transactions. Weeks go by, and with every new piece of information, the story becomes darker. Samuel hasn't made any effort to reach out, and his whereabouts remain a mystery. One day, The lawyer calls Martha with the breakthrough she's been waiting for. Lawyer, on the phone, voice grave. Mrs. Richards, we've tracked the funds. Your son's withdrawals weren't just for a business. They were going to an offshore account. We also found some irregularities that point to money laundering. It's far more serious than we thought. Martha is stunned. Her world tilts again as the gravity of Samuel's actions hits her. He hasn't just lied. He's committed a crime. Martha, shaken, whispering to herself, money laundering? Samuel, my son. Her hands tremble as she clutches the phone. The betrayal runs deeper than she ever imagined, and a part of her feels like she's lost everything. She doesn't know who Samuel really is anymore. The heartbreaking decision. Martha struggles to process the shock of this new information. The man she raised, the son she loved and trusted, is now a criminal. She sits in her living room, staring at the phone, unsure of what to do next. The lawyer advises her to contact the authorities, but Martha isn't ready for that. She wants to believe that Samuel can change. Days pass, and Martha finds herself walking through her house, retracing every step she took when Samuel was a child. She recalls his first words, his first steps, all the moments she shared with him. But now, those memories feel like a distant dream. She's left with a painful question. Should she report him to the authorities or continue to believe in him, even after everything he's done? Narrator, voiceover. The hardest decisions are often those that weigh most heavily on the heart. Martha knew that whatever she chose would have lasting consequences, not just for her, but for Samuel as well. Her love for him conflicted with her need for justice. She had to decide, and no matter the outcome, it would break her heart. Martha's call to the authorities. After days of contemplation, Martha finally decides she can't turn a blind eye any longer. The truth is too painful, and the law must be upheld. She picks up the phone, her hands trembling, and dials the authorities. She knows that by doing this, she might never see Samuel again. But she also knows that by letting him go, she might save him in the long run. Martha's voice breaks as she gives them the information they need. The weight of her decision presses down on her, and as she hangs up, she feels a deep sense of loss and relief mixed together. The consequences of her decision. Martha waits for the inevitable news. The authorities launch an investigation into Samuel's activities, and before long, the police arrive at her doorstep. They explain the charges against Samuel, money laundering, fraud, and theft, and Martha listens in silence, her heart aching with every word. Police officer, Mrs. Richards, we need you to come with us. Samuel is under arrest. Martha is led to the car, a numbness settling in her chest. As the officer opens the car door, she catches sight of Samuel in the back, his hands cuffed. His eyes meet hers, but there's no recognition, no apology in them. Just a coldness that cuts deeper than anything she's ever felt. Martha, softly, tears in her eyes. Samuel, my son. Samuel looks away, his face hard and unfeeling. The connection they once had is gone, replaced by a vast emptiness. Martha watches as the car drives away, the world around her suddenly feeling colder than it ever has. Narrator, voiceover. Sometimes the hardest part of love is letting go. Martha had done everything she could for Samuel, but in the end, she had to make the choice that would protect both of them. She had given him everything, but he had taken more than she could afford to give. Now, she was left with nothing but memories, and a heart broken by the son she thought she knew. The aftermath. Months go by, and life starts to settle into a new normal for Martha. Samuel's trial is publicized, and the case garners attention. People whisper about the rich man's son turned criminal, but no one knows the real pain behind the headlines. For Martha, the trial is a blur. She's there, but she's not really present. Her mind is elsewhere, consumed by the loss of her son. Then, one day, she receives an unexpected letter. It's from Samuel. In the letter, he expresses regret, sorrow, and a desire to make things right. He writes that he understands the gravity of his actions and the pain he's caused her. For the first time, Martha sees a glimpse of the son she once knew. Samuel, in the letter, "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything I've done. I've failed you, and I can't undo the past. But I want to change. I need to change. I hope you can forgive me, even if I don't deserve it." Martha holds the letter close to her heart, her tears falling freely. She doesn't know if she can ever truly forgive Samuel, but for the first time in months, she feels a flicker of hope. Narrator, voiceover, hope is a fragile thing. It can flicker in the darkest of times, a spark in the coldest of hearts. Martha's journey wasn't over, but in that letter, she saw a chance for redemption, not just for Samuel, but for herself. No matter how broken they were, there was always a chance to heal. Martha's reflection. Martha stands at the window, looking out at the world that feels both familiar and foreign to her now. The house is quiet, the silence echoing in the space where Samuel's laughter once filled the air. Time has passed, and although the pain of his betrayal still lingers, she begins to find peace within herself. The trial is over. Samuel is facing the consequences of his actions, and Martha knows that she made the right choice. But the question of forgiveness still looms large in her heart. Narrator, voiceover, forgiveness isn't easy. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a process, a journey that takes time. Martha has learned that sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. But even in the darkness of her grief, she's found a glimmer of hope. She knows that healing will take time, but she's ready to face the future, no matter how uncertain it may be. A new beginning. Martha begins to focus on her own life once again. She takes up painting, something she always loved but had forgotten in the chaos of her life. She reconnects with old friends, finding solace in their company. Slowly, she builds a new sense of purpose and strength. The pain of her past still lingers, but it no longer defines her. She's learned to live for herself, to reclaim her happiness. One day, Samuel writes another letter. This time, it's not just filled with regrets. It's a letter of gratitude. He writes about the lessons he's learned during his time in prison and how he's trying to rebuild his life. For the first time in a long while, Martha feels a sense of closure. Narrator. Martha's journey wasn't about forgiving her son or forgetting what happened. It was about finding her own way to heal, to live in the present, and to move forward. It's a journey that isn't over, but one that has led her to a place of peace. And sometimes, that's all we can ask for